Look, thank you all so much for coming. This is a fantastic audience for 8:30 on a Monday morning. Lots of Reform friends here, and I hope new friends too. Perhaps we are here because this is such a vital subject. Increasing housing supply would help with so many of the key policy questions of our time: social mobility, intergenerational fairness, sustainable economic growth, to name just three. It will be a central issue at the next general election, whenever that is. Westminster City Council is doing it, and it wants to do more, and I'm thrilled to have the chance to engage with their ideas this morning. And on all of our behalf, Nickie, thank you to you and your team for helping us put on this event, and also by housing us in these wonderful facilities and with your wonderful hospitality this morning. How we will run this morning: I say my very warm welcome to Nickie Aiken, the leader of Westminster. Nickie, we're absolutely thrilled you're here. Nickie will begin by giving us a keynote address for 20 minutes or so. I will then ask for first responses, no more than 5 minutes each, from our excellent panel. Welcome Olivia Harris, the Chief Executive of Dolphin Living, Natalie Elphick, Chief Executive of the Housing Finance Institute, and James Cooksey, Chair of the Westminster Property Association and Head of Central London for the Crown Estate. And I will just give the apologies for Sir Edward Lister, who was to join us but had to drop out last night. He's had to go to a central government meeting this morning, and of course he must do that. So we will hear from our panel, then I will open it up. Please have your vigorous and sharp points. We will discuss those with the panel, and we will finish no later than 9:45. The Twitter tag is Reform Housing. Please do tweet like mad. And there is Wi-Fi here, WCC-guests, and you can log on there. And I will just say how grateful I am to the Reform team, led by Charlotte Hamilton-Wright, who have put today together so well. So, Leader, we're thrilled you're here. Please give us your keynote speech today.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It has only been 20 days since the general election, and in that time we have all been rocked by uncertainty and arising from the election result, by terrorist incidents and by the tragedy of Grenfell. In times like this, locally elected politicians have to work closely alongside expert public bodies, emergency services and other local authorities and central government. Many of these publicly funded institutions have been subjected to the scrutiny and creative thinking of reform over the years, and have been reformed for the better. And we in local government need to listen to the policy wonks from time to time too. So thank you, Andrew, and your colleagues at Reform for holding this event today. My ambition for the City of Westminster is to create a city for all. As I said a fortnight ago at the London Real Estate Forum, City for All is not just some vacuous slogan. It is our vision about the kind of community we want to create. It is about the people and their families having the chance to make a life here and not having to leave as their families grow. It is about having a truly mixed community containing people of all ages and from right across the income scale. A community where people who work here can live here as well. And it is about creating new forms of housing tenure and building thousands of new homes. So, be in no doubt, Westminster is a council with very big ambitions. We are determined to build on our heritage as a council which pioneered the Mortgage Accelerator Scheme, who invented the one-stop shop, and which has consistently delivered the lowest Band D council tax in the country. If there was one thing that united the parties at the last general election, it was the acceptance that policy needs to be reshaped to tackle social and generational inequality. Here in Westminster, that inequality is all too stark. I have said before, and I will keep on saying it, I do not want to preside over a borough where the housing market is polarised between multi-million properties for oligarchs and social housing estates, with not much in between. The City of Westminster always used to contain families, not just rich families, but ordinary working families, like my husband's family. That has been here for generations. I want to make it possible for young residents of Westminster to imagine a future where they continue to live, work, raise a family, and if they want to, retire here. I am determined that those who work hard for themselves and their family do not have to move out when their family grows. Yet, at the moment, if they are in social housing, they often have to wait years for a council house or flat big enough to accommodate them to become available. If they own their own flat, the cost of buying one with an extra bedroom or two, together with the extra stamp duty, makes the move within the same neighbourhood prohibitive. And if they rent, they want to move to a more expensive rental property, they will never have the security of equity in a home that they aspire to own. We end up with hollowed out communities, left deprived of families which are so essential to the health of a balanced community. Now, Westminster is a magnet for people to come and live, both from other parts of the United Kingdom and from the rest of the world. The challenge of housing all these people who arrive is formidable. But I do not see why, if life's journey starts in Westminster, it must necessarily end somewhere else. I want residents to see Westminster as a place where they can settle for life. Local councils have two big levers at their own disposal to help deliver on their housing vision: their own housing renewal programme and planning policy. At Westminster, we are using both. A quarter of Westminster's housing stock is social rented. This includes several estates owned by the council, managed by City West Homes. Westminster Council has always made it our business to win the backing of local residents when we refurbish and regenerate housing estates. Residents will understandably be even more sensitive to any changes we propose in the aftermath of the Grenfell Tower tragedy. I recently ordered an urgent review of the safety of all our recently refurbished council-owned properties in Westminster. We are determined to check and secure them all. We will make available the necessary resources for that to happen. But we are making renewal of our housing estates business as usual. We have an ambitious programme. Over £285 million will be spent over the next 5 years, repairing and improving council homes to meet the changing needs of our population. Our first duty is to make sure residents affected by estate renewal are treated fairly, and that those displaced have the opportunity to return to high quality accommodation that is safe to live in. By setting aside some properties for sale on the open market, we can finance the building of new affordable homes. In Westminster, because house prices are so high, we have to look at products to serve those who cannot afford to buy a home in Westminster, but who cannot gain access to social housing either. Making available more intermediate housing to rent is therefore a central plank in our strategy of housing city for all. The population and economy of the City of Westminster is set to grow. The Council's new city plan will signal our openness to new ideas from developers about making the most efficient use of space while protecting our city's heritage and distinctiveness. For example, we will not routinely resist adding extra floors to existing buildings. We want to work with developers who contribute to our community and who share our ambitions of long-term community sustainability. But we are not going to swallow whole developers' arguments that they can't afford to deliver affordable housing because of viability. Economic viability must be married with community sustainability. We won't be shortchanged on affordable housing. just because a developer has paid too much for a site. Of course, we accept that developers need to make a profit, but we also need to recognise that developers must play their part in ensuring socially balanced developments in Westminster. It's essential. It's going to be an essential precondition of making a profit. We are not simply going to take the cheque from developers, as has often happened in previous years. They will have to make on-site provision for affordable housing, and it will be rigorously applied. At least 30% of new homes must be affordable. If we are going to meet a wide range of housing needs in Westminster, we have to produce more intermediate housing, providing more innovative new housing products which meet the circumstances of different types of people in different neighbourhoods. At the moment, just 1 in every 30 homes in Westminster is in the intermediate category. I am determined to improve this ratio and to make it possible for aspirational Westminster residents to achieve their dream of home ownership. This is a place where existing models of shared ownership do not always work well, because even a 25% share in a property may well be beyond the reach of someone on average earnings. So, we intend to look at new ways of helping people from renting ownership. We want more scope to develop home products that meet the unique demands of Westminster. Products like discounted share ownership, where the price of the property is reduced. Shared ownership, which enables you to buy a smaller stake. Or hybrid products, which combine equity loan with shared ownership. We want to start a conversation with lenders, with the GLA and the regulator, the HCA, to make sure these kinds of products become standard and can be used across London. We intend to be a brand leader in making the most of intermediate housing and to work with government and others to try out new approaches. If something works here, it is likely to work in any higher value area. Government should allow us the room to innovate, and I intend working with ministers to give us the space we need. To this end, we have made it clear that we will change the balance in the new affordable housing we deliver, so that 60% will be made available as intermediate tenure and 40% for social rented. We also need government intervention in resetting the framework for securing a fair share of economic value from developers for the community. New developments do put pressure on what we traditionally think of as physical and social infrastructure. They also benefit from that infrastructure. And they make a contribution to the cost of this infrastructure through the Community Infrastructure Levy. We also use Section 106 planning obligations to contribute towards the creation of sustainable communities and to mitigate the negative site-specific impacts of a development. This still is a simple mechanism that makes clear up front what a developer will be expected to pay. It is set by taking account of the cost of the infrastructure needed and what developers can afford to pay. This brings welcome certainty into the process for both the council and the developer. It avoids delay and expense of exchanging reports by surveyors haggling over costs and values, often behind closed doors, a process that has risked the planning system into disrepute. It is a good model for supporting affordable housing. By making developers pay specific automatic contributions for affordable housing, both sides could reduce the amount of time spent negotiating Section 106 obligations and speed up decisions on planning applications. I would suggest a locally set charge paid on net increases on floor space. It would be applied to all development rather than just residential, as it is largely the case with Section 106. This would establish a value that would be met by building on-site or in specific circumstances where the council agrees that affordable housing cannot be delivered on-site through a payment in lieu. I do not support a London-wide tariff. We believe it is unworkable and would slow down delivery because of the wider variation in viability conditions across the capital. It would also undermine our efforts to deliver local homes for local people. The temptation would always be for a mayor to take Westminster money and spend it somewhere else. The process for setting a tariff would allow a public dialogue between local authorities, local people and developers about the housing need of an area and how it should be met. This would have the certainty and speed of Cllr, but instead of money, it would deliver affordable homes. I know this kind of approach was suggested in the government's review of Cllr, led by Liz Peace. I am keen to progress this idea further with the government. Now, we recognise the unique challenge of building more affordable housing in the heart of London, which is some of the highest land values and development costs in the world, and a limited supply of brownfield sites. There can't be a one-size-fits-all solution here. But if we can escalate the delivery of more affordable homes in Westminster with some of the highest land values in the United Kingdom, it can be achieved anywhere. Councils could significantly speed up the delivery of affordable housing if the government gave us the chance to operate in a more flexible fashion, to be allowed to break the chains on borrowing against the housing revenue account, to have more flexibility in how we spend right to buy receipts, to get the restrictions lifted on offering intermediate housing for rent within the HRA, to apply the definition of affordable housing more flexible in planning policy, so that more intermediate housing products fall within that definition, to make better use of existing stock, such as addressing under-occupation by tenants with secured tenancies, and to have a legal and policy framework that facilitates cross-boundary working by local authorities. What I suggest to the government is they could grant councils flexible housing zone status. This would be in recognition of Westminster as such a high-cost area for development, and in return for a commitment to speed up delivery of affordable housing. It need not be a policy that is unique to Westminster. The government could allow groups of local authorities to make bids for flexible housing delivery projects, where appropriate in conjunction with registered providers or private sector partners. By bringing together land, money and expertise across administrative boundaries, new housing could be delivered more quickly than the individual authorities can deliver on their own. This might allow a borough with borrowing power or Section 106 contributions to come together with a borough which may have a large site that is currently unviable or requires some enabling infrastructure to get development going. The government threw down the gauntlet for this kind of approach in February's Housing White Paper, when it invited local authorities to come forward to speak bespoke deals with them. We intend to build on this with a comprehensive proposal under which government gives us the room and flexibility to innovate and deliver. At a time when government and parliament are going to be preoccupied with other things, the best thing for us in local authorities to do is to help ourselves, to work out local solutions to local problems and get on with it. We cannot afford to wait for someone else to come along and solve our problems for us. This is not an easy agenda to address, but we are keen to work with other boroughs and agencies to take it forward. I would be delighted to talk to anyone wanting to join with us to do this. Westminster City Council is not afraid to float new ideas, to try new methods and implement new policies. We will upgrade the quality of our housing estates. We will make available more affordable housing through our own housing renewal programme. We will insist on more affordable housing being built by developers on site. And we are increasing the proportion of new intermediate housing which must be built. To reach our targets of enabling or delivering over 1,800 new affordable homes over the next 5 years, it will take close cooperation between developers, housing associations and housing management companies. We could do so much more if we could persuade central government to introduce more certainty for developers and the councils through an affordable housing delivery tariff, and to grant flexible housing zones or project status to particular local authorities and groups of authorities trading flexibilities and powers for more housing. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a wide-ranging and ambitious housing reform agenda for this city. I hope you will join me in working on the delivery of the City for All vision. Thank you.